The scent of varnish, linseed oil, and centuries of dust was my perfume. The museum's restoration studio, a sanctuary of silence and controlled light, was my world. That morning, the press, curators, and the museum's patron were all gathered for the unveiling of The Hidden Gem, a 16th century painting I had spent the last 2 years bringing back to life. My husband, Matthew, the most charming and successful art dealer in the city, stood beside me, his hand on my back, smiling for the cameras. He was the man who had discovered the work, the visionary who brought it to the museum. I was the technician, the artisan behind the scenes. "What Clara does," Matthew said into the microphone, his voice full of a pride that sounded almost genuine, "is not a job, it's a miracle. She doesn't restore the paint, she resurrects the artist's soul." He turned and kissed me, a gesture for the delight of the photographers. The audience applauded. I smiled, a trained smile. But as he spoke of the artist's soul, I thought of the hidden signature I had found under 3 layers of paint the night before. A signature that wasn't from the disciple everyone thought, but could be from the master. A discovery that could rewrite a chapter of art history. A secret I had shared with him, and only him, in an excited whisper last night. He leaned in close to me as the guests approached to admire the painting. "You're tense, my love. Relax. This is our day of glory." "I'm just thinking," I replied, my voice low. "It's amazing how a painting can hide so many truths, and so many lies." He frowned for an instant, confused, but his salesman smile quickly returned. He thought it was a philosophical reflection, an artist's rambling. He didn't realize that it was a warning. He didn't know that under the brilliant varnish of our life, I could already see the fine cracks of his betrayal. Life with Matthew was a perfect varnish over a complex canvas. He was the master of the stage, I the master of the studio. I loved the quiet of my workshop, the silent conversation with pigments and canvases. He loved the auctions, the cocktail parties, the game of the sale. It seemed like a perfect balance. The first crack appeared a few months ago. I was working late on the restoration of The Hidden Gem. Matthew called me. "Darling, I'll be late at the office, closing the details of a big sale. Love you." I heard in the background the unmistakable chime of a bar we knew near the auction house where Sophia, an ambitious and notoriously aggressive appraiser, worked. I said nothing. Doubt, like a solvent, began to eat away at the surface layer of my trust. I started paying attention, not looking for an affair, but for something that seemed more dangerous in our world, a conflict of interest. Matthew began to show an unusual interest in my progress with the painting. He asked technical questions he had never asked before. "Have you done the infrared reflectography yet? Found any pentimento, any underdrawing?" He seemed hungry for data, not for art. The truth revealed itself on a rainy night. He had gone out for a dinner with a client, and I, on a hunch, went into his home office. He rarely locked it. On his desk, an email was open on the screen. It was from Sophia. The subject? Provenance of the gem. The body of the email contained a draft of a document, a provenance, the history of an artwork's ownership, meticulously forged. It traced our painting, The Hidden Gem, through a series of noble and obscure collections, linking it directly to the inner circle of Leonardo da Vinci. It was a brilliant lie, almost impossible to refute without deep knowledge. Attached was a preliminary appraisal report, signed by her, with a stratospheric value, conditional on the correct attribution. And then the final paragraph. "Matthew, darling, with this provenance and your inside confirmation that the restoration points to the master, we can take the painting to a private auction in Geneva next month. No one needs to know about your wife's official research until it's too late. We'll celebrate our success soon. Kisses. S."
The air left my lungs. It wasn't just an affair. It was a conspiracy. He was using my work, my most precious secret, to commit a monumental fraud. He planned to steal the discovery of my lifetime, sell the work for a fortune, and leave me behind with the reputation of a slow, incompetent researcher. I felt a wave of nausea, But then a cold calm washed over me. The same calm I felt when holding a scalpel over a 500-year-old canvas. He thought my skill was just for fixing the past. He had no idea I would use it to destroy his future. If you are already fascinated by this 500-year-old mystery and outraged by Matthew's betrayal, subscribe to the channel. The truth is about to be revealed layer by layer, and you won't want to miss it. I didn't confront him that night. I waited. I let him live in his web of lies for another week. The confrontation happened on my territory, the restoration studio, late at night. The smell of solvents hung in the air, and the large paintings covered in white sheets looked like ghosts watching us. He walked in, smiling. "Working late again, my love, you and your old things." "I'm making a new discovery, Matthew," I said without turning around. I was facing away from him, looking at an image on my high-resolution monitor. It's fascinating what technology allows us to see. "Any more invisible cracks?" he asked with a tone of amused condescension. "Something a little deeper?" I turned and pointed to the screen. This is the first scan from the infrared reflectography of the hidden gem. Look. On the screen, the black and white image revealed what lay beneath the paint. There were sketches, charcoal lines the artist used to compose the work, and in a corner, almost imperceptible, was a small drawing. A knot. A complex geometric pattern. Matthew's smile froze. He moved closer to the screen, his eyes fixed on the small knot. He knew, as one of the few experts in the world, what that could mean. The knots were a kind of visual signature of Leonardo and his workshop. "Interesting, isn't it?" I said, watching his reaction. "A detail that's not in any record, a detail only someone with access to this technology could find, a detail that, if analyzed correctly, could change everything." Panic began to form in his eyes. He was trying to calculate. Did I already know? Or was I just sharing a new discovery with my husband? The uncertainty was killing him. That's incredible, Clara," he stammered, trying to regain his composure. This could confirm everything. We need to be careful with this information. We can't release it prematurely." "I agree," I said, turning off the monitor. "The art world can be treacherous, full of people who forge provenances and sell secrets at private auctions." His blood drained from his face. Now he knew that I knew. "That's why," I continued with a deadly calm, "I've decided to accelerate my final report to the museum committee. I'll be presenting it next week, along with my full analysis of this knot. I want to ensure the discovery is announced correctly, by the institution, by science, and not by some greedy dealer in Geneva." He couldn't speak. The ticking of the clock on the wall sounded like a bomb about to go off. I had just shortened his timeline, forced his hand. Now he would have to act fast, and in the world of art and crime, haste is the mother of error. Matthew's panic turned to action. He could no longer wait. My announcement to the museum committee would destroy his plan. His retaliation was sophisticated and cruel, designed to attack my greatest virtue, my credibility as an expert. The campaign began with a leak to an influential international art blog. The article, written by a journalist known for his scathing reviews, questioned my recent and obsessive theory about the hidden gem. Using anonymous sources, who I knew were Matthew and Sophia, the text painted me as a brilliant restorer who in her later years was losing touch with reality, seeing secrets where there were none.
Could the desire for one last great discovery be causing the legendary Clara to see patterns where there are only smudges? The article asked. Sources at the museum express concern that her radical theories could actually diminish the work's value rather than increase it. It was a precise stab. He didn't call me crazy, but obsessed. He didn't call me a liar, but mistaken. He was using the language of our world to discredit me. The next step was even bolder. Matthew used his influence on the museum's board to request a second independent opinion on my restoration. He argued that, given the importance of the work, it was prudent to have another expert validate my findings before any official announcement. And the neutral expert he suggested, an appraiser from Paris, known for his connections to Sophia's auction house and for his flexible valuations. It was an attempted coup. He wanted a fake report to refute my findings, creating an academic stalemate. With my theory in doubt, he would have the perfect cover to take the painting to his private auction in Geneva, selling it with his forged provenance to a buyer who believed his story, not mine. He was trying to turn my quest for truth into mere opinion. He was trying to turn my science into fiction. I received the formal notification from the museum about the external evaluation by email. I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. He was using the very rules of our universe against me. For a moment, I felt trapped, a piece on a chessboard he controlled. That's when I looked at the image of Leonardo's knot on my computer screen. A knot. A puzzle. And I remembered that I was the best in the world at solving them. Matthew thought he was playing chess. He didn't know I was playing a much older game, the game of truth hidden beneath the surface, and I was about to make my final move. Matthew's plan to discredit me was good, but he made one mistake. He underestimated me. He thought I would fight alone. But in the world of restoration and art history, reputation is everything, and mine was impeccable. His smear campaign didn't isolate me. It caught the attention of the real giants. The first to contact me was Dr. Giovanni Costa, the world's leading expert on Leonardo da Vinci from the Florence Art Institute. He sent me a short direct email. Dr. Clara, I've read the speculation about your findings. Ignore the noise. If the knot is what I think it is, you may be onto something bigger than you imagine. Send me your infrared scans, immediately. I sent them. His reply came hours later on a video call. His eyes were shining with excitement. Clara, this is not an ornamental knot. It's a water knot. Leonardo used them as a coding system, almost a seal of intellectual authenticity. But he only used them in works where he was testing a new revolutionary technique. We need to know what else is under that paint. The second ally came from an unexpected place. A young physicist from MIT, a specialist in X-ray fluorescent spectrometry, a cutting-edge technology that can analyze the chemical composition of pigments without touching the canvas. He was an admirer of my work. Dr. Clara, I read about the controversy and the attempt to discredit your analysis. It's an outrage. My team and I have developed a new portable scanner. If you give me access to the painting, we can do a full pigment analysis. We can prove the age and exact composition of each layer of paint, and maybe find something the infrared can't. Matthew wanted a second opinion. I would give him the opinion of quantum physics and the world's foremost Leonardo historian. I convinced the museum director, a man who deep down trusted me, to allow one last night of analysis, to prepare my report for the external appraiser. The physicist from MIT flew in with his team. We spent the entire night in the silent studio, the machine gliding over the painting's surface, mapping its chemical soul. And that's when we found it.
Under the layer of paint in the sky, the analysis revealed traces of a pigment that shouldn't have been there. Egyptian blue, a very expensive pigment, whose use Leonardo had abandoned early in his career. But more importantly, under the blue, there was another sketch, invisible to infrared. It wasn't a drawing of an angel or a landscape. It was a series of musical notes, a short melody. I called Dr. Costa in Florence in the middle of the night. I described the notes to him. The silence on the other end of the line was long. Then I heard him gasp. Impossible, he whispered. Clara, that is the traitor's melody. It's a musical notation found in the diary of one of Leonardo's apprentices. Legend has it that Leonardo would secretly sketch it on works he suspected would be copied or forged by members of his own workshop. It's not a signature, it's a warning. It's a trap. My heart stopped. Leonardo da Vinci, 500 years ago, had left a trap for traitors, and I had found it. Matthew thought he was stealing a painting. He had no idea he was about to be caught by the genius of the greatest master of all. Revenge is about to be executed with scientific and historical precision. If you can't wait to see Leonardo's genius destroy Matthew's greed, make sure you're subscribed. The most important auction in history is about to begin. The private auction was held in an opulent hall of a luxury hotel in Geneva. The atmosphere was rarefied, filled with the scent of old money and power. The world's top collectors were there, sitting on gilded chairs with their hardcover catalogs. And at the center of it all, on an illuminated easel, was the hidden gem, looking more radiant than ever. Matthew was the master of ceremonies. He spoke about the forged provenance with a passionate conviction, his voice enveloping the audience. Sophia, the appraiser, stood by his side, nodding in agreement, his accomplice in the crime. I was seated in a back row, next to the museum director, whom I had convinced to come as an official witness for the institution. The auctioneer began the bidding. 50 million euros. We have 50 million. 60 million. 70. The numbers climbed dizzyingly. I saw Matthew's smile widen, the glint of greed in his eyes. When the auctioneer was about to bring the gavel down at 100 million euros, I stood up. "Excuse me," I said, my voice calm but sharp, echoing through the tense silence. Before the final bid, as the head restorer responsible for this work, there was one last layer of its history that I would like to reveal. All eyes turned to me. Matthew went pale. "Clara, this is not the time or the place," he said, trying to interrupt me. "On the contrary, Matthew, this is the only place. Ladies and gentlemen, what you are buying is not just a painting. It is a work with a secret." I walked to a large screen that had been set up next to the easel. With a click of my remote, the X-ray spectrometry image appeared, showing the chemical composition of the canvas. As you can see, I began my presentation, as if at a symposium. The pigment analysis confirms the age of the work. However, it also reveals a fascinating anomaly. The image zoomed in on the musical notes hidden under the sky. Hidden beneath the blue pigment, we found a musical notation. The audience murmured, intrigued. It may seem like a trivial detail, but thanks to the collaboration of Dr. Giovanni Costa from Florence, who is with us by video, we have discovered what it means. Dr. Costa's face appeared on the screen live from his office. Buonasera. What Dr. Clara has discovered is of monumental importance. This melody, known in my archives as the traitor's melody, was a code used by Leonardo to mark works he suspected would be the subject of fraud by his own assistants. It is, in essence, a 500-year-old warning against forgers. The silence in the room was breathtaking. And what kind of fraud did Leonardo fear? He feared that someone would take a work from his studio and create a false history of false provenance to sell it for an inflated price. I looked directly at Matthew and Sophia. A purely hypothetical scenario, of course.
Then the final blow. But Leonardo's genius was even greater. The melody itself is not random. When translated using a musical cipher of the era, it does not form a song. It forms a sentence. The sentence appeared on the screen in Italian, and below it, the translation. The truth lies in the signature. The eye does not see. "Matthew," I said, turning to him, "why don't you tell us about the signature we found, the one that isn't from the disciple, but that you conveniently forgot to mention when you created your beautiful story?" Matthew was finished, trapped by science, by history, and by the genius of a man dead for 5 centuries. The auctioneer dropped the gavel. Collectors stood up furious. The museum director beside me took out his phone to call the police. Matthew's multi-million-dollar charade had turned into an international crime scene, and the hidden gem had fulfilled its promise. It had revealed the truth. The Geneva auction scandal rocked the art world. Matthew and Sophia were arrested right there in Switzerland. The attempted fraud, combined with the evidence I provided about their plans, resulted in an international criminal case. Matthew's reputation as an art dealer was not just tarnished, it was incinerated. My name, on the other hand, was everywhere, not as the betrayed wife, but as the hero of the story. The detective restorer who used science to unravel a 500-year-old mystery and expose a modern fraud. The museum, instead of becoming the victim of a scandal, became the home of the discovery of the century. My divorce was signed by proxy while he awaited trial. He didn't contest anything. There was nothing to contest. A year later, my studio was no longer a silent sanctuary. It was a vibrant research center, funded by a new wing of the museum dedicated to the science of art authentication. I led a team of young historians, physicists, and chemists. We traveled the world, using our technology to uncover the secrets hidden in other works of art. The hidden gem, now permanently attributed to Leonardo da Vinci and renamed Leonardo's Warning, was the museum's main attraction. Thousands of people lined up to see not just the beauty of the painting, but the story of its revealed truth. I was no longer a behind-the-scenes figure. My lectures were in high demand, my articles published in the most important journals. I discovered that I loved teaching, loved sharing the passion for the truth that lies beneath the layers. Matthew was convicted and served time in a Swiss prison. I never heard from him again. He became what he feared most, a forgotten footnote in the history of a great discovery. One afternoon, while analyzing a new painting with a young intern, she looked at me with admiration. "Dr. Clara, are you never afraid of what you might find under the paint?" I smiled, looking at the canvas before me, at the infinite possibilities hidden beneath the surface. "No, my dear," I replied. "The truth has always been the most beautiful part of art." And for the first time, I understood that this applied not just to paintings, but to my own life. The revenge, in the end, wasn't about exposing his lies. It was about revealing my own truth, unvarnished, for the whole world to see. Clara's journey shows that the truth always finds a way to the surface. If stories of intelligence and justice like this inspire you, your first action is to leave a like so YouTube knows you enjoy our content. If you're not yet part of our community, subscribe to the Revenge of Victoria channel for more immersive narratives like this and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And finally, a special request. We want to know how far our stories travel. Comment below and tell us which city and country you're watching from. We love reading every single comment. Take care and see you in the next video.